Every generation believes the next one is strange. But Generation Z feels different. They grew up in a world where information moves faster than attention, where friendships can start in a comment section, and where trends can live and die in 48 hours. If you've ever wondered why Gen Z thinks, acts, and reacts the way they do, the answer isn't just culture, it's psychology. Generation Z is the first generation to grow up fully online, not just using the internet, but living inside it. Imagine forming your identity while thousands of voices, opinions, and comparisons are constantly in your pocket. That environment changes the brain in subtle ways. Studies on attention and digital behavior suggest that frequent exposure to short-form content trains the mind to process information quickly, but sometimes at the cost of deep focus. In other words, Gen Z can scan information like pros, but reading a 300-page book might feel like running a marathon in flip-flops. But here's the interesting part. This same environment has also made Gen Z incredibly adaptable. They learn fast, pick up new tools quickly, and are often more comfortable with change than older generations. While previous generations might hesitate to try something new, Gen Z just shrugs and says, "Let's figure it out." That flexibility is a powerful psychological strength in a world that changes every year. Another defining trait of Generation Z is their awareness. Mental health, identity, social issues, these aren't taboo topics for them. They talk about anxiety, burnout, and boundaries in ways that previous generations often avoided. Research over the past decade has shown that younger people are more likely to recognize emotional struggles and seek help, which is actually a healthy psychological shift. In many ways, Gen Z is breaking cycles of silence that lasted for generations. Of course, awareness has a shadow side. When you're constantly analyzing your emotions, it's easy to overthink them. And when social media becomes a mirror, comparison becomes unavoidable. Psychologists sometimes call this social comparison theory, the tendency to measure your life against others. The difference is that Gen Z isn't comparing themselves to 5 neighbors or coworkers. They're comparing themselves to millions of carefully edited highlight reels. That can create pressure that no human brain was really designed to handle. There's also the paradox of connection. Gen Z is the most connected generation in history, yet many surveys report rising levels of loneliness. It sounds contradictory, but it makes sense psychologically. Digital interaction gives quick bursts of connection, but the brain still craves deeper, slower, face-to-face relationships. It's like snacking all day, but never eating a real meal. You're consuming, but you're not fully satisfied. Still, one of the most admirable qualities of Generation Z is their courage to question things. They challenge outdated norms, rethink careers, and redefine success. For many of them, success isn't just about money or status. It's about freedom, meaning, and balance. Some people call this laziness, but if you look closer, it's often not laziness. It's a refusal to sacrifice mental health for a lifestyle they don't believe in. And yes, there's humor too. Gen Z humor is famously chaotic, absurd, and sometimes makes absolutely no sense. A picture of a frog screaming at the sky? Somehow hilarious. A random sound effect followed by silence? Comedy gold. It may look weird, but psychologically, humor has always been a coping mechanism. When the world feels uncertain, laughter becomes a way to release tension. Every generation has its jokes. Gen Z just delivers theirs at the speed of Wi-Fi. So the psychology of Generation Z is a mix of strengths and struggles. They are adaptable, aware, and open-minded. But they also face unprecedented levels of distraction, comparison, and information overload. They are growing up in a world that moves faster than any generation before them, and they're still learning how to navigate it. And maybe that's the key to understanding them. Generation Z isn't broken. They're simply the first humans trying to adapt to a world that no one in history has experienced before.